Sure. So the question was about the school district. As county judge, how are we going to foster a better relationship with the school district itself, and then help grow the kids for their success and their future? And then as a second question, emergency management. How are we handling emergency management between all of the entities, especially the school district, right? So here's the deal. A lot of people have no idea how the school is financed and how tight their budget is, right? Basically, all of your tax money for the school district, and Holly, jump in if I'm wrong about this, but give me some leeway. The money you pay on your property taxes goes to Austin, and then they send down a certain amount of money per kid based on attendance throughout the year, not even in the enrollment, right? So the school district has to plan for so many kids enrolled and supporting them, and then get paid for how often they show up with a max deal per kid. Holly, is that correct? That's the right. So the school district does not have a lot of excess funds, and they have to watch their budget and their dollars as much, if not more, in the county, right? So any support that the county can get is needed, right? With that being said, they also have a lot of state mandates what they got to teach, so they cannot go beyond that because they don't have the financial means to be able to push through that, right? We've already hammered the county needs some help financially, right? How we do that, and I'm going to take a little bit of a longer path on this. We need to build what I call a fortress balance sheet. It has 3 pillars. Number 1 is liquidity. That's money in the bank, right? Number 2 is assets. Number 3 is diversified revenue stream. I'm going to skip those other 2 for right now. Talk about just liquidity, okay? I'm going to give you a specific number. I think, in my opinion, the county needs $15 million in the bank. All right, that's what we have in our reserve funds that we do not touch. Okay, it's going to take us a long time to get to that. I want to be clear. It's not something we'll get overnight. It may take 10 years to get to that point, right? When that happens, all right, because we can work to that and we can achieve that goal if we are disciplined and take the time to get to that point, right? When that happens, we earn interest on that. The interest we make in 2030, all right, that is the money we spend in our budget for 2031. Not for things like payroll, for very specific things. A percentage of that goes each place, right? If it's $500,000 in interest, a certain percentage goes to additional funds for the fire department. A certain percentage goes to additional economic growth, right? I think it would behoove us to put a percentage of that and give that money to the school district that's meant to be spent right here in Goliad County, right? And the best way to spend that is with a life skills teacher that we are able to fund, that teaches things like budgeting, balancing a checkbook, building a resume, conducting a job interview, right? Those are skills, and I've heard this phrase somewhere, that the reason money is such an issue in America is because finances are taught at home and not taught in school, right? But simply put, I'm sure the school district struggles to provide those services, right? Those are things that our children in our community who are more likely to come back or stay in our community would benefit from, which would ultimately benefit our community and benefit our society, right? Again, that's a long-term plan. But if we don't have a plan, we've got nothing to work towards, right? In the short range, a lot of things like internship. When Holly, the superintendent, walked myself and a couple of my employees and my wife through the new middle school, right? And she expressed some of the workforce and technical programs that every single student is assigned to and has to pick, starting in middle school and moving their way up, right? They struck a great deal with Caterpillar for internship. We can expand on that. How can the county help? Can we do a county internship program where the kids come in the summertime, whether it be out with the precincts, whether it be in the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, the auditor's office? There's a lot of things we can do community-based internally to offer some of those programs, right? We have 2 kids that come to us workforce program every single day. I got one for our pool company, and we got one for our electric company that come. One comes at 12:30 every day when he gets off work. He's a senior. Other kid's a sophomore. He comes at 2:30 every single day. Why can't we reach out to members of the community and push some more of these things through? All right. The other thing I think is low-hanging fruit that we need to push is the thought process, the mentality of our children. All right. And that could be as simple as, why don't we reach out to different places, Austin, government, businesses, and get a guest speaker to come in once a quarter and talk to these kids and tell them why it's important to be focused on success and focused on budgetary items and focus on discipline and talk about these things and get them in front of them and hear and expose them to different ideas and being successful, right? It starts with molding their minds. All of these kids are moldable, and we want to mold them in a way that is beneficial to them, to their community, to our country, to our society, everything, right? And that is, again, those are all low hanging fruits. That is extremely easy, all right? To emergency management. The bottom line on that is we need to be more, what's the best word? Together. All right. We need to have, Dave and I were at Fannin Fire Department the other day, and Joseph was there too, right? And what they complain about, they don't have good communication with the sheriff's department. EMS doesn't have good communication with the fire department, right? The school doesn't have good communication with the fire department, those kind of things. I can tell you, in the Army, we rehearse, we practice, we go over these things thousands of thousands. We rehearse drills, we do these things thousands of times. And almost every time, it falls apart. And the only way you solve it and get it back on track is with communication, right? That's the only way. We have to figure out the simple things like communication, having a plan, knowing who's who. If we get on board with that and get those things down, any emergency we can handle, all right? And then we can grow and say, all right, we've got the basics down. What's next? And how do we move forward and keep going, right? But there's simply, Frank, there's too many chiefs. The city has an emergency management coordinator. The county has an emergency management coordinator. Every fire department has a chief. I mean, we need to get in the same room and work out some of these things and handle the basics like communication and what's going to happen. And so when something happens, if nothing else, we know who to talk to and how do we solve it in the moment and go from there.
So I'll start with emergency management. When I first got in, we were joint with the city. So right now they have one, county has one. I don't know. I'm sure they're making 50,000 plus each. Hurricane Harvey came. We hit a home run, but we couldn't fit all 7 of the city council people in our little red trailer. And when we had our meetings, and we started having meetings when the wind got down to 40 degrees or 40 miles an hour. Some of them, they didn't like that because they couldn't sit at these meetings, but we didn't have room, you know. So they got mad and they developed their own emergency management. So what else do I want to push on that? Well, I'll go to the schools, and so there again. Well, okay, emergency management. When you talked about the fire departments, we talked to them the other night. I think sheriff department's wanting to go to a new radio system. They can't afford these radios in these fire trucks. I think they said $8,000. Hell, they can't even afford their insurance, much less the fuel, and then these radio systems. So this is it's a new high tech system, and then they were having problems getting. We talked to dispatch when I was in before. We talked to dispatchers. Why can't we just dispatch two of the fire departments instead of all 6 of them? And it wasn't a way to figure it out or something. There's got to be something with technology now with an electric board or whatever to see where the problem is. And there again, all of our fire departments are volunteer. They get a pat on the back when they do their job. They do fundraisers. They don't get paid for that. They have meetings. They go work on their trucks, clean them. They train. They've moved up, like I said, 100% from when I was in high school here. So emergency management is needs to be brought together with the city, and we can save some money on that, of course, and plus helps us work together better. The schools. So everybody knows I'm big for the youth here. I'm big in the Fair Association. I sit down there for a whole week barbecuing and cutting up meat. We used to look at my little mail out. If you got one, I put the FFA and the 4-H emblem on there. I'm very proud of our volleyball team. Tried to buy the volleyball that was signed at the Education Foundation. Got a little expensive. But if I was going to get judged, I was going to put that in the courthouse, and maybe they'll still get me one. Maybe Jess can still get us one and put in
She
there.
gets them every year.
Well, I know,
You get buy the one
but
next year,
this
no
one, I don't
problem.
know. This one just went crazy this year, and it was
Yeah.
I
It was
know
great.
they've had her, but and then they need to be asked to come to these meetings and praise them for the hard work that they put in to achieve this goal. It doesn't happen often in Goliad, and you go look at the walls, and it hadn't happened much in the past, but that there's track stars that came from here and things like that. As far as vocational, that's where I got my start. The state did away, I believe, with a lot of our vocational, or probably quit funding it because they want these kids to go to college and pay this money, and a lot of these colleges are state owned, and but vocational is where a kid gets its start. You know, I started in mechanics. I fell in love with it, and I was good at it, and I made a living at it, a good living at it, and right here in Goliad. And I'm sure maybe you got a little bit of that. Did you learn any vocational in your school?
Yeah, we did.
That's where he got his start probably. When a kid gets out of high school and all he knows how to do is read and write and arithmetic and know a little about history and maybe how to throw a football, that ain't getting him nowhere in this world. You have to have a start. So, some of these kids go to 1-2 years of college and well, hell, I don't want to do that. Well, if they had vocational in the schools, they would know what they wanted. They would know what they want, and they would feel like, man, I got that talent. I know it. I'm good at it. I think I can do well at it. Electricians, secretarial. Back then we had typewriters. We didn't have computers.
Golly.
Oh yeah. I didn't do good. I promise you. Best one was Pam Long, 91 minutes or 91 words a minute. But anyway, you got to give these kids a start. And I know they're stepping up and it's better the vocational. Man, we had Trey Pensick. What a guy. Came here, all he wanted to do was ag mechanics. He didn't want to teach about steers and sheep. He didn't want to teach about grass judging and things. He wanted to teach these kids how to change oil, how to build things, weld, mechanics. And they had a team of 3 girls built a whole tractor, put a Ford tractor together, totally from the ground up. It's amazing. Now, did they become mechanics? No, I know all 3 of them. Neither one of them. None of them did. One's a veterinarian, one I believe maybe in accounting, and I don't know what the other one did. But anyway, what a start! And they went around and showed this stuff, and it was just it put these kids so much further ahead than our city kids. Our city kids can't. They don't have that. They don't even know where milk comes from. So our school, we're lucky to have a small school, and it is one of the best probably in Texas, and people want to come here. So anyway, that's what but there again, that school system, the county judge, our commissioners cannot tell the school what and where and when, but we can work together, and that's what we did with Trey. I had a mechanic shop. I invited the kids to come to watch. We showed up at his shop and helped them till 10 o'clock in the evenings with their projects, till they could get them ready for these fairs. And they went to San Angelo, Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. So we got to give these kids a head start.
Finishing on the school district, I personally think it's the most important relationship we have, right? Because we talked about money. Money's a big issue for the county, right? We've talked about resources, losing our water, right? But the community itself is also a major issue, all right? Someone gave me a statistic, and I haven't looked into it yet, but it was something like 70 or 75% of the people in Goliad County are over 65, right? So what happens when we go from 7,000 people down to a couple thousand people because we're not bringing in new members of the community, okay? What draws members to our community? The school district. That is why we are here, right? Probably why my wife won't stop having kids, because we got to fund the school district, right? That is the number one draw, is a good school district, right? And I joke about that, but when I came off active duty, my wife and I, who's from Edna, we went to all the surrounding communities, went to Hallettsville, Cuero, Shiner, all those places. We chose Goliad, and the deciding factor, we loved Goliad, loved the square, loved everything about it, right? But the deciding factor was the school district, right?
That's right.
I don't care what anybody says. We have one of the best school districts around, right? I've done the research. I've sat in the meetings. I've been part of the boards. I know that for a fact, right? We need to push this. And what we want is for families who care about their kids getting a good education and going to a good school district to fill the ranks of our community, because those are the families that have the traditions and the values that we want in a small town community, right? We need to support the school district. It is, to me, the number one relationship to have between all the entities in the county is the school district, because that is literally our future. Those kids are our future. And again, if they're exposed and get a good, successful foundation through school and then through home, they're more likely to come back later or stay in Goliad County and keep growing the community and keep on going, right? It's important to us. I hope my children say, Eric and I have 4 kids, all right? And we have 10 businesses. I hope my kids stay and continue and grow and push these businesses to the next level and keep on going, right? So I think the school district is number one. And I'm sure David and a lot of the candidates would agree with that. So.
Kids that leave this town to go to college or wherever, because there's not a lot of jobs here, they do great.